Hey guys, welcome to Not Again podcast. This is Gary here. How is everyone doing? Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to the show. For this week, we have Tony Chou with us. Tony Chou, he is a stand-up comic from Beijing, China. A very charming guy, right? I love to have a chat with him. Introduced by Sarah Ping. And because I would like to know more about the Chinese comedy scene, right? And Tony and I chatted. We chatted through Zoom, and I found out a lot more about the Chinese comedy scene, right? He talked to me about like the difference between the cultural side of China, right? There's this thing called crosstalk, and how it differs from the modern stand-up comedy thing, right? And we chatted too a little bit about the social media scene, content creation, and things like that in China, which is very interesting because from what I have about the social media thing, it's like such as TikTok or the Chinese version of TikTok, Douyin, right? Weibo, which is very well known in the Western media, right? And that's all I know. But apparently, there's a lot more social media thing that's going on in China. So there's I had a lot of fun talking to him, right? It's there's a lot of information that I've learned from China as well, right? And a little splice of Chinese life as well, right? And with that, without further ado, I'm gonna bring in this conversation that I have with Tony Chou. Enjoy.
So this is what I'm saying. Like Zoom is halfway banned in China. So
Oh, okay.
how
So,
is this gonna work?
but how okay? How bad is But what do you mean by halfway ban? Like sometimes it means that is it like technical issues, or is it like or is it just like, oh, China is just like don't really like, it may go a little bit because I don't know what do they do with the banning of the Zoom and stuff like that.
Hmm. As what I said, it's just not it's just not efficient way to log in and have meetings with
Uh
overseas guests.
uh
I think they I'm not even sure they do feel I can download it from the app store right now,
uh
but it's definitely gonna have some license issues in China.
okay.
It always have an indication that you have to log on some other app that have a connection with Zoom or so on and that, you know.
Mm.
So it's a nolly yes. It's basically a nolly yes situation here.
Oh, okay, can understand. All
I
right.
don't know if you know this, like Google, Facebook, Twitter, all those stuff are all banned in China. YouTube,
Oh yeah, but
Instagram are
I
all
I
banned.
I suppose you use a lot of VPN from China then. Like it's because of because all you have to post things up online, and I've seen your some of your videos as well.
Yeah.
It's I think it's also because stand up is a very Western driven art form. Is it? Especially in
I
China
think
where
it's about the information control. I don't.
mm,
It's okay with the form of the stand-up right now because it's
mm,
really popular in China.
mm,
It's rocketing up. It's uh, it's I think it's even the most popular live show format right now in China's market. I think it's just basically the information control.
mm. But what is there like censorship, or is there like things that people talk about because generally when I do stand up, if there's Chinese audience, right, it is like
Mm.
it's a little bit iffy for me, because for my style of stand up sometimes it goes a little bit politically driven, in a sense where and stuff like that. So is there like a is there like a censorship when it comes to, because you run a comedy club, what would you tell to people who from who came from the West, who came from the US, just it came from the US and started doing stand up, right? Is there any like
Mm.
is there anything
Mm.
that tell them, hey, look, there's certain topics that we cannot talk about on stage right now, on stage, because of whatever the reasons are? Like do you brief them?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of tricky because they divide the shows into two categories. One are in the theaters. So all the shows in the theaters in China are supposed to be getting approval from the government, which means that you have to submit your lines. I mean, every word you said, and even the video of the show, and definitely the ID information of the performers, all to the government, and they get approval, and then you can do the shows in the theaters. But sometimes you can also do shows in the restaurant and the bars and stuff, and that's some kind of a midway between the illegal things and the legal things, where the government have are kind of have a loose control. But sometimes it gets tighter, sometimes it's okay. So it's what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's always like
So
it's always
in
like
the bars, the shows in the bars just more freedom, and you can do whatever you want actually, until something really terrible happens.
What is the has anything terrible happened in the Chinese scene? Because for me, the Chinese scene is like it's like a it's draped with mystery, and the Chinese comedy scene seems like a veil of mystery, right? It's like the forbidden city, right? In the 1800s or 1700s, where I cannot see the emperor. It's just so vague, kind of like things, right? So I do not know what's going on the other side because of the the mysterious vague of veil, right? So what is the so back on my question, right? So what is the Chinese scene like when it comes to when it comes to comedy and stuff? But what was the Chinese scene like then? Like because you're talking about theater of like do you have to word for word? So what happens if you change a word that's similar in meaning? Will they still get very hard on you?
I mean, China has its own traditional comedy. In the northern part of China, what's more popular, the form is called the xiangzheng, the crosstalk. That's a double act. One plays the straight guy, and one plays the white guy, the wise guy. But that's in some way less creative in terms of the materials, because the performers are just mostly performers. They're doing story. It's a story-based piece of art, which lasts for like maybe 30 minutes or 20 minutes. And during the past over 100 years, there are several of these classic stories in which there are some punchlines. So basically, it's that the different performers perform the basic same stories, and they insert some different punchlines in the basic structures. So that's what the northern parts of China in general, or the since 1980s. I mean, you see crosstalk on radio and televisions, on the Spring Festival Gala a lot. That's the comedy in people's mind. It's the most popular. And also the Chinese has our own sketch, the Chinese sketch called Xiaoping. It's just like the pace and the flavor is some sort of different from Western kind of a 10 years ago. I'm one person in a meeting in China actually.
When I was younger, I remember like listening to 相声 a lot when I was a child. But I didn't see it like as a narrative form. It's a story format. But I do know, like, in a sense where people are using the same story, like the same narrative over and over and driven. And I know like there's this one Chinese there's one Chinese guy who do crosstalk so well that it become like a meme. Each kind of thing, right? I remember like this one big guy and one very thin guy, one tall and skinny guy, and one very stouty but very big guy. I think there's where there be one guy is called 刺激 or something like that as a meme. I'm not so sure whether I relate that to. I'm not so sure that
I got it. That's
then there'll be like a guy, then another meme where this guy will just keep smoke like that. Correct. Right. But is it like still like a very big thing in China when it comes to crosstalk?
Yes, it is still very big. I think it's the most popular because it's been here for dozens of years.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, people of different generations knows crosstalk as the Chinese comedy. Well, I mean, the younger generation, I mean, which I mean like the 40s and the 30s and 20s, and even younger generation, I think the comedy is our thing.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how can I compare this. It's like a crosstalk is some sort of like the folk music, the traditional folk music of China. While the stand-up comedy is the pop music.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a new generation of music, I guess.
Yes. Yes.
So here's this
That's
question about this Chinese stand-up then. Like is it has people embraced the idea of stand-up in a sense where it's the like how do they or what kind of ideas do they have when it comes to stand-up comedy? Like do they like what do they have they like have they accept or embrace the idea of stand-up like how the Western does? Do I make
I
sense?
think stand-up is really I think stand-up comedy has been here in China for almost 10 years, but it's really until recent years. I mean, the recent maybe 4 years also, it's been really, really popular, all due to the TV show. Because there's a Chinese version of the Last Comic Standing in China, and also the Chinese version Roast, 吐槽大会, the roast, Russian roast in China. That boosts, I mean, the popularity of stand-up here. So for the majority of mass, I mean, stand-up comedy means something new technically. So this is the first idea that comes in their mind. They think, oh, it's one guy and talking about their own stuff. Because even though we have a crosstalk, we don't really have an impression of that's really personal and really innovative. You're gonna have a performers of a different style, have a different new performers, but it's based on the very roughly the same material. So stand-up means something really fresh, and it's very fast-paced. It's one punchline after another, which is really new and really different from the traditional Chinese comedy. And also they do their own stories. But I mean, but the thing that what kind of ideas, what kind of independent thinking, and what kind of critical perspective of the things what we're all commonly acknowledged in China, how this could be challenged is different from the Western world, I think.
Do people perceive the idea of does people perceive the idea of stand-up? No, people perceive the idea of crosstalk as a narrative driven that's from basics? Do people consciously know that crosstalk as a basic narrative that was driven long time ago and not something new? Do I make sense? Like do people know or is widely accepted that okay, we all know that it's a story that was being done long time ago multiple times by different people? Or do they
how could I put it? Because I think there is less innovation compared in the cross-talking scene compared with the stand-up. Because stand-up is completely different new, like it's driven by a different person. It's delivered by a different person. But crosstalk, there are innovation that people, and even there are some modern stories. But in general, it's not as personal as the stand-up. So people, yes, there are some people who have an idea that that's something traditional, but it's still developing, and it's still some of the pieces of art are still related to the modern life. But in general, that's a small part of it. It's just a small part of it. But in terms of stand-up, it's all like modern things.
Okay. because I'm just wondering, like, will there be a time where people are just doing like transition into both? Like people from crosstalk will go to stand up and try out stand up, and people from stand up doing crosstalk, like they transition.
Yeah.
And will there be like will there be people, or what are the reaction between both scene against each other? Do that make sense?
Yeah, but I mean, frankly, there are some crosswalk performers have been trying to do stand-up during the past like 10 years, almost 10 years. But I've never seen like a lot of them, actually, not even one who got really successful.
Okay.
Because it's just a different, very different mindset and very different method.
Okay.
Like in crosstalk, they are emphasizing very much the skills, which means more of it with the delivery skills. Like there are basically 4 skills in crosstalk. I don't know how to translate. I don't know if I could translate that properly with my words. 说 speaking, 学 imitation, 逗 like jokes, and 唱 singing. So it's not very punchline driven. I mean, crosstalk in general is not very punchline driven. You got multiple skills, and the audience expect you to do the skills. So they have been received a lot of strict training how to deliver the thing. It's more of like a literal variety thing. You know, the variety skills are combining within a story thing. Sometimes they're doing a tongue twister. Sometimes they do a sing of a different like a type of a traditional Chinese opera. And sometimes they have a dialogue that they're more of actors, you know.
Okay.
They're less than a reading, talking directly to the audience.
Okay.
Because there's a fourth one. So they are mainly focused on how they could deliver and perform the material better. They think that it's kind of a play, you know, with some punchlines in it.
Okay. Okay, so it makes more sense now because as much as I know that there's difference between crosstalk and stand up, right? I always perceive like they are interchangeable skills in a sense, right? Because of the way you perform and stuff like that. I didn't realize the muscle behind stand up and crosstalk is so different. Yeah, so I'm like,
I mean, the basic. I'm sorry. I mean, the basic rules or the basic skills of what makes people laugh. That's generally accepted, I think. Like globally.
Yeah.
Just like how you cook with the material, how you cook with what the recipe, in what way, how you serve it. In what kind of environment, the surroundings, and you serve it. It's kind of different.
So, okay, going back, right? Going back, I remember I asked this question, but I didn't really get the answer for this. It's like, do you like? Is there anything that you would tell to a new comic from the West who travel down to Beijing or China? Like, they say, hey, can I perform in your comedy club? Is that do you tell?
Yeah, sure.
Do you tell them that, hey, that there are certain things that you won't talk about, or there are certain things that you might want to in favor, or is there certain or is there laws that how will you brief them on the set of their set?
I guess you were talking about a stand-up comedy in English.
Yes.
Because that's a separate scene in China.
Yes.
Like the stand-up comedy in Chinese is a really huge market here.
Yeah.
But the stand-up in English is just like a small thing, just like a niche market. So like in the niche market, within the niche market, it's almost the same with the West. Because it's mostly like expat scene or people, even the Chinese people, it's going to be like overseas returning people or who are really open-minded to the Western cultures and who even have watched a lot of the Western stand-ups. Yes, one thing is just you have try to connect with relate to the local audience. I mean, it's the same thing here everywhere in the world. Even if like the same English-speaking countries, like you travel from Australia to Canada, it's gonna try to find the right reference.
Yes. So what about if you're Chinese speaking to a Chinese speaking audience?
What? Sorry.
So if you have a comic who does, okay, because I do comedies and I remember when going to Hong Kong and I remember going to Taiwan,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And it's my first time doing Chinese stand-up comedy. That's
Okay.
that area as well, right? So and I remember doing in both places, right? Where and it gets very awkward because of I realize my comedy set in English I cannot directly translate to the Chinese comedy
Mm.
that well, right? I'm not so sure is it because of reference or is it because of the rhythm or is it because of because Chinese syllables, Chinese words are it's one syllable, right? And
Mm.
English words are usually like multiple syllables, right?
Mm.
So and then and then the phrasing itself is different as well. And then you realize, oh that does it translate well on your end as well? Do you do Chinese? Like do those people who are doing English stand up also doing Chinese stand up as well?
Yeah, I mean there are a few people who do stand up in Chinese and in English, but there are like a very few of them among the
Mm,
comics.
mm,
Like mostly like Chinese comics are doing Chinese stand up,
uh,
and I think there are less, probably 10 Chinese comics doing English stand up comedy in
do,
mainland China.
do you do that? Do you do that? Or
Well,
do or
that's
do you do like both sides or do you just do one? Do you just do like purely
I do
English?
both.
You do both. Okay,
I do both. I do both.
how do you write a different set or do you write the same jokes but do you write different jokes? Totally different jokes or do you write same joke but translate to both language?
Well, first of all, I have to admit that I'm kind of lazy. I do a lot of MC stuff actually. But I mean,
It's MCing is a muscle that I cannot do. I would respect those people who just do like pure MC, right? And just go like, man, I am a comic who just write my jokes, right?
uh,
I do interact with my audience sometimes, but it's like that is an objective to interact with my audience member. Like I cannot. I only want to ask one question and I react to that question. That's all I.
Yeah, I mean, like, it takes a lot of exercises and
Yeah.
it takes time to try to got this kind of a feel on stage. I mean, I don't know how long you have been doing stand-up, but I think you have been doing stand-up a long time, like 7 years, 8 years, or
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah. It's about that.
You know what, Gary? You know what, Gary? I was traveling to Singapore for the comedy festival in 2015,
Uh-huh.
where there's a, I don't know if you know this, there was a, what is called the Magners Asia
Yeah,
Comedy
yeah,
Festival
yeah.
in Clucky, mostly in Clucky and Boat Quay.
Uh-huh.
I
Boki.
went down there to watch some sets and some shows. I got to meet some friends from different countries.
It's
I feel like,
you feel like what?
yeah, I mean, like there are almost no guy from East Asia. I mean, like China, Japan, and Korea. No, not even one. Vivek was there. But he's from Hong Kong. There are a few guys from Hong Kong travel down there.
Oh yeah.
Because Hong Kong is one part of it, because it have three host cities, I think, host countries at that time: Singapore, Philippines, and
Hong Kong.
Hong Kong. Definitely, Hong Kong is part of China. I mean,
Yeah. It's a weird thing for me to see like is okay, maybe it's not that weird because of around the region but if you just say if you're not talking about Southeast Asia but East Asia only like China, Japan and Taiwan, and Hong Kong and Korea.
Korea.
It's a very weird sense of like people have their own different types of ideas of comedy when because of the traditional mix of their
I just
tradition.
feel like it has a lot to do with the language. I think stand-up is an English speaking culture. From my perspective, I think like countries with more influenced shape or in the history has more relationship with the English speaking countries, gonna adapt this adopted this form of art more easily
Mm-hmm.
because English is working there, and that's part of English culture, I think.
Uh-huh. Do you think that China, the Chinese audience, was it a hard time to introduce Chinese stand-up, the Chinese audiences to stand-up comedy? Like, is it difficult? Because we are still in the midst of, because
No, it's super popular right now.
it's super popular right now.
Super popular right now. It's the most popular comedy, not only just comedy, but live show format.
Uh
Form of-
because we have a hard time in Singapore in a sense where we are still trying to break the stereotype of what comedy may be, because our idea of stand-up
Okay.
comedy, or at least in Southeast Asia, between Singapore, or at least in Singapore and Malaysia, and maybe in Philippines, right? What I realize is the idea of stand-up comedy is a person is a guy wearing a dress, put like full makeup on, like going in as drag, and roast the shit out of the audience member.
Yeah.
Sometimes audience
Yeah.
member laugh, right? Sometimes they cry, right? That's our idea of comedy, and it's so hard to change. Like, we are still in the mindset of like changing the mindset, the stereotypes of, look, stand-up comedy is the way it is, where people can go up on stage and start making fun of their own self, making fun of their of maybe the politics, their personal belief, maybe of their religion, maybe or even some very mundane stuff. So that's we are still changing the mindset of this. So I guess it's like it's easier because of crosstalk from China. Is it?
Yeah,
Is it?
no, it's just because there are, as I said, there are the TV shows, the
Uh-huh.
web shows,
Uh
the Chinese version of The Last Comic Standing,
uh
and the Rock and Rolls. That's really almost like the most popular network shows right now. So that brings the popularity. That makes it so popular.
but
It's
but
very easy for the
but is it?
Chinese audience to
But-
buy
but-
in the concept of stand-up comedy.
Okay.
But just different is that, like, how strong could you be, how offensive you could be, and how personal you could be. But this form of art, it's most popular here.
Is it popular for, or is it smart for? Okay, if I were to go down in China and perform, right? Is it smart? What are the dark subjects that people are, like, I don't dare to laugh at. I'm not so sure whether I can laugh at those jokes.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, so are there topics that Chinese audience will go, like, am I not, other than the political jokes aside, right? Like,
Mm,
are there topics that go, like I'm not so sure if I should laugh at that kind of jokes and stuff like that? Because you talk about offensive comedy, right? Like, are there people doing that and just go, I am not so sure whether I can book you the next time? Like are there comics like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a political reason. There's a cultural reason. Both of them could shape how people think. I mean, to me, like, stand-up comedy is just a weapon that it can use, but in the freedom country or in the freedom society, where you can address whatever you want. But jokes or stand-up comedy, it's just the way how you do it. You can do it through poem, you can do it through music, you can do it through painting, you can do it through like a journalism, but this is stand-up comedy. But the core of the question is that how open-minded could the Chinese audience could be to accept something different?
Yeah.
Could you be yourself? Could you be a really a weird guy? That's gonna be welcomed by the majority. Can you really, like, be really honest and saying the things that are not to be, like, correct, like in most of the occasions in daily life on stage? I mean, that's the point.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
but and also, I mean, China is so huge and the market is very, very large. You have a different group of audience. I mean, like any country industry here in China, it's not like the middle class based society. You're gonna very different cities or towns with people are very different. So what I'm saying is the art, the form is popular already.
okay.
Are easily these people could easily accept this.
Mm.
But if you how personal or how offensive you could be, and what kind of a topic the audience expect to hear from you. Vary from this place to another place very much. But in general, I think it's a very white-collared thing in China. So people are kind of open-minded, but still culturally, if you talk about too much about sex, because I've heard so many stand-up in the West talking about very specific about doing sex issues, but sometimes it's hard in a like a theater, or actually you cannot even talk about that if you do the shows in a theater, because that's
Really?
not allowed. Yeah, because of the censorship issues.
Oh, okay. But I guess like normal relationship issues are still very popular, because the only sense of the only sense of comedy the only sense of comedy or sketch comedy that I know of, right, is through TikTok, or at least the Facebook version of TikTok, where there's this where people are like doing like TikTok videos for different sketch where they talk about the regular lives of being a couple, right? And people are doing the same thing. Like that's the only time I can get the sense of what Chinese audiences might feels like. Like people talk about the north side of things and the south side, like people from not north, right? Yeah, from the north side, right? Like people who expect from the north side to be when you go to the market, right? And you buy like in bulk, like a lot of stuff for food, right? When you go to the market for once, and if you're in the south, you it's okay to go like buy one stock of celery, and it makes sense for the so I can the only sense of comedy, like is that the same when it comes to like different audience member or different audience member expectations when it comes to comedy wise? Like in a sense, what are the general audience expectations of comedy? Because the only humorous expectations that I have is from Chinese TikTok.
Let me put it this way. Generally speaking, I think the Western comedy tend to. Let me put it this way: the Western audience, when they watch the English stand-up, they're trying to establish a dialogue relationship with the or establish a communication with the stand-up comic, which means that I'm not watching doing tricks. I'm here to communicate with you, to hear some of the ideas, to hear some of your ideas and some of your experiences and some of your stories in which I could take part. But generally in China, like the audience are expected to be more passive. Like, okay, I'm here to watch you're doing your skills. You do your stuff, and I'm here to get entertained. I don't know if you could feel me, but so sometimes if you really be standing out and talk directly to the audience, some of the audience will feel uncomfortable with this because this is what they are expecting. They don't want to get into your show. They just want to be an outsider watching you do the thing.
Show me your magic tricks, little dog.
Yeah, that's kind of the things, you know. I mean, I'm talking about the general mass. The general mass. Because I think it's also the cultural influence. Because I don't think the Chinese people are very straightforward. We're always very protective. We're always very self-conscious. So in the public situation, no one would like to really stand out and be a person. And you know what I mean? Like, I think this is cultural influence.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until I started doing stand-up as well. Like from my end, I think it's a very Asian thing.
Yeah, especially. I mean, Singapore is a different place because you have a different races all like living together, and using English as a language is more like open and also kind of like the bridge to me. to the West. It's more international than China.
But it's just the whole idea of like, okay, this is your life right now, right? You can't do any, like you can't do anything much. You have to prove yourself to be like the best, and even when you're at the best, you can bring down of you can bring down from the society itself, from the high end as well. But you're taught to follow the law. You're told to follow. There's a certain structure that's in place in education, right? So right, that there's certain structure in place. There's a certain standard operating procedure you have to follow. You can't deviate out of the SOP. You can't do anything else that's different. Tasks that you always go through the path that's walked, right? So generally we don't as much as I would say different, but I think there's a very Asian trait of like saying we are there, we live life in a sense where we walk the path that's been walked, because that was a proven path. You don't deviate out from the society itself, right? And stuff like that. Or at least that's what I see, right? And yeah, that I didn't see that until like I'm doing stand up, where people say, oh, it's a bastion of free speech, and you guys kind of like, okay. So, and I think that's a very Asian trait as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you a little bit about your personal life then, like because you're the few stand-up comedy that I know from China. So how do you get in touch? How do you get in touch with this art form then?
That traces back to almost 10 years ago, where Joe Wong, I don't know if you know Joe Wong. Wong, is the guy who actually introduces the stand-up comedy to China in some way. Yeah, I mean, we all know some of the late night shows, and sometimes we got some clips on the internet in China about the comic is doing jokes, but that's kind of like very irrelevant to China and to us as audience, because we cannot understand some of the jokes.
So do you?
We don't understand why people are laughing. Just think, oh, did a White House correspondent, TV or radio correspondent's dinner roast, and he roasted Joe Biden at that time, and that video really go viral in China. Okay, and that makes me think, oh, I probably could try it. And then I started in Beijing, and when I looked it up, I didn't find any Chinese stand-up comedy. I found a bunch of foreigners, the expats, like doing English open mics in Beijing, and that's how I started.
Is it encouraged at the point of time, like or people like what art form, what kind of art form is this, or is it like like how encouraging was the scene back then? Not now, but back then, before it got really big.
In 2000, I started in late 2012 or early 2013. I don't quite remember it clearly. I guess it's early. What I do remember is that it's the last few days before the Chinese New Year of 2013, and I started in English. That's a that's a Western thing. The audience are foreigners, and the performers are foreigners, so it has nothing to do with China, except their jokes, except their.
It's 15 days of holidays there.
Right. Yes, but later on, Des Bishop, the co-founder of our comedy club called the Humor Section, 幽默小区, came to China to film his own documentary. Then we started to do the club in 2014. And also before that, we did a lot of open mics here and there. I mean, it's really, I could compare this to be the McDonald's in China.
Okay.
Like, I mean, people, you cannot expect people all understand this and all are crazy about this. But you do have customers, you do have people who love this, because some of the people are coming from the Western countries, and also some they're working in English. So you got to kind of like these people, yes. But it's true that sometimes they are very nice audience to the Chinese audience, but they don't quite understand what we're doing.
Uh-huh.
But they're not used to this pace, this kind of style that you do jokes because Chinese people. I don't think Chinese people have a good idea of what jokes is.
Okay.
It's like a very strict, like a punch setup and a punchline, and it's very unrelatable to the people. Chinese people are open to the stories.
Oh
The
yeah.
stories that's you can lead them into the stories. But you do a joke, people say, what are you doing? Why are you saying this? I don't understand. They get this very Western thing, like a boom, boom, boom. It's up on your face, right? People, like Chinese people are like Tai Chi style, you know.
Oh
You
yeah,
cannot
yeah,
be
yeah.
like we can be beat around the bush and drag a long time, and there's a laughter here and there, but you only filter all the like unnecessary parts, and the only purpose is to tell a joke and make me laugh really hard. And Chinese people are not ready for this.
Okay. I myself are like narrative driven comedy a lot, in a sense. Sometimes you take in, go out. Like I think what draws me a little bit to crosstalk is because of the idea of like driven, like it's a little story here and there, right? It's like
It's basically a conversation. It's basically the conversation of the two performers, and one is telling a story, and sometimes then talk to another guy. It's basically one storyteller and a listener on stage, and sometimes like interrupt the storyteller. That's kind of like the basic narrative of a crosstalk.
It's like, to me, it's also a little bit like someone is telling a story, the other one is a translator from it's a humorous translation from the audience to the one who's telling
the other guy is just like the representative of the bodies on stage.
Yes. So it's like that's interesting. What stand-up is just like up on stage, and okay, this is just me talking. You either get it or you don't. Yes. And it's like a totally different kind of art form that I can see another difference between crosstalk and art form. Then how do you grow like
I don't know if it's I'm sorry, I just come up in my mind with a comparison. I think it's a difference between the Japanese porn and American porn.
Continue. I'm interested to see where this is going. One needs a subtitle, and the other one, one you enjoy, the other one you just why is it pixelated like that?
One is a very direct and to the point, and very very raw. I mean, like, but the other is like kind of like delicate but roundabout, and have a story, have a plot, and not.
Why are you ordering pizza with a hole in there? It doesn't. I don't care. Just there's no need for the hole. I understand, but it's just there. You get. The other one, housewife, right? It was pixelated. I don't get that. Is there an explanation? No, you don't. Like that's. Okay, so Joe Wang, did Joe Wang perform in China? Like is he a regular there?
In China. Yeah, he's been back for 10 years.
Okay.
In China.
Yeah, so is he a regular in China, or did he fly out to the US a lot of times? Like or is he just a representative?
No, he's basically in China. I saw him very often in Beijing. We performed together since 2013. So in Beijing. So he's basically in Beijing.
I guess he's like a major celebrity there. He's like an A-list celebrity there, or like
yes.
Yeah,
he's a celebrity here.
Yeah. So like, are there people like react to him like crazily? Like do you? Because I think stand up is like a since it's got so popular, like are there superstars in comedy that
Sure. I mean, like I think Joe's most popular of the Joe's time is about 10 years ago with the like White House correspondent thing came out, and then the last 2 years. But after the web show, the Chinese, what I said, the Chinese version of Rock and Roast and the Chinese version of the Last Comic Standing, there are some new generations of comedians going viral, and Joe Won is not a part of that show.
Okay.
Not at all.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean the same thing. Like in America, you got a new comics like coming out every year, and new stars are coming out. But the same thing here. But most of the comics are young people, and that's something different. I think in America or in the Western countries, they've got people with a very wide range of age and a very different kind of backgrounds. But in China, it's mostly young people in the 30s and 30s, 20s and 30s performers.
Here's this thing about Chinese roles when you mention, like, because coming from a very Chinese centric family, right? Here's this question: does the older people or does the elderly kind of like what's the elderly reception when it comes to roles? Because or at least in the celebrity side, like are they open to roles? Because I think that if I were to ask a Chinese celebrity come in to do a roles, are they open to it? Because in order, part of me just goes like, in order for roles to happen, to receive like mainstream people watching, right? A lot of people watching, right? It needs to you need to get a big star over, a big celebrity over, right? Are people receptive? Are major Chinese celebrity receptive to roasts, or are they like, okay, this is not just or this is not my thing, right? And open to kind of things like that.
Yeah, I got you. But yeah, this is the point I'm saying. Obviously, like Chinese stand-up is, in terms of the material, the depth of material, or the boundary, it's definitely not as cool as America. Because America has been developing the comedy in America has been developing for decades. Also starting from something very street jokes and very cliche things, and into something personal, something really mundane but profound art form. But China just started within recent years, and all performed by the young people who has less life experiences, and also there's a censorship issue, obviously. You can say whatever you want on stage. So it's not only about politics. The whole point is, like, can you be yourself in a really large stage in China?
Oh yeah.
Like being really personal. That's the point. It's not only just the political reasons, but also for the cultural reasons, for the censorship reasons, the way how the society works, the reasons. Because also in China, we don't have the rating system. And it's just the public programs. You're going to care also about the young people, the kids, and what topics and what words are okay and whatever. So, I mean, the roast programs, yeah, there are some other like celebrities, like the American version, that come to it, but it's not as cool as that. It's pretty safe to some extent, you know. So
yeah, because I'm imagining like Liu Yifei or Angelababy to be in the roles itself, and I suppose that people will get very angry when it comes to the internet, like, but what is it like why are you insulting the celebrity like maybe Liu Yifei or Angelababy who participated in roles knowingly? So I suppose like there'll be backlash on people who doing like roasting on because roast itself is an insult to is like a insult, like with love and stuff like that to so I suppose like there'll be negative, like people who don't know about who don't understand the idea of roasting, right? Or maybe got first introduced like why is that, like, so are there any major celebrity that go, okay, I'm doing this?
I think my point of view is that the Chinese entertainment industry has been protecting the celebrities so much it's too much. Even that I don't really feel that the stars here, the celebrities are as real.
Uh,
You know what? It's like the products
oh yeah,
manufactured
yeah,
by the agent
yeah.
with a label of the personality. That's what I'm saying. You know. So in the context of a roast, I mean, a lot of lies are discussed ahead before time,
Uh,
and I think they're kind of a cooperation
oh yeah.
because they're in some way are manipulating the fans and the audience rather than the audience could vote for the true the true thing. You know what I mean? Like
Oh yeah, yeah.
because stars have been protected, they're not as real from the very beginning. So it's kind of like a PR thing for them.
Okay, okay. Okay, I understand. Understand. I'm just curious about like how detached Singapore, how detached Chinese stand-up comedy scene to the entertainment scene in China since the Chinese TV networks are going so crazy on the Chinese comedy thing.
Mm.
Like because there's web series and stuff like that, right? How detached it is from the comedy scene and the Chinese entertainment? Like is there a detachment or is there like a distancing?
Oh, I mean, stand-up comedy or the popular comics are kind of like new celebrities in China, which means they got a lot of fan base, got a huge fan base. But in some way in China, the movie industries, the series industries, advertisement industries are following the fan base. I mean, a lot more wildly than the West, than the matured in the countries like America, because the stars are always manipulating or like maybe taking most of the budget of the TV making or the movie making, so that the art, the piece of work, the movie itself, the show itself are very terrible. So it's, I don't know if I made myself clear, but it's just like in China we have a word for this called 流量. Like if you have a really large fan base, whatever, they're buying your fan base. They're not buying your your skills or the performing.
So the entertainment, I think it's the same thing with the West, where or at least this part of the world in Singapore, where if you are an influencer, right, it does not matter like what you do. Right? If you're an influencer, people or corporations will just buy your fan base because of the amount of influence that you have on that certain amount of fan base. Do I make sense?
But I think yes. But I think what's the difference is in China, the room of the celebrities in terms of the art, the movie or the series are so much larger. I mean, they are earning a lot more than the comics or than the actors at the same level in Hollywood. They're earning so much more than that. They're earning so much, even that there's not enough fees for the productions.
Yeah, understand. Yeah, so I'm just curious about like how detached it is from like, because if that, say a celebrity, right, maybe a C-list or D-list celebrity, right, maybe like decide to say, hey, I want to do like a roasting because it seems like I can make it seem like I'm taking a joke very well. I can be humorous. People can understand where I'm coming from and stuff like that. Maybe I'll do a roast to boost my popularity kind of thing, right? Will that happen? Will that happen, or is it just mainly okay? The comedians have their own influence, right? They have gained a certain amount of popularity, but it's the comics know what the comics only the comedians will do the comedy roles. Does that make sense?
It's a complicated question. I think it's already happened, but I think I would rather say that, like in America, they're open to Chinese food. They're open to the Chinese restaurants. But but from my perspective, the more authentic it is, the less popular it is. You know.
How many Kung Pao chicken can you sell in the understand now. You want to sell Kung Pao chicken, you do not want to sell Chinese food. That's I think I get what you mean by the US by the rules in the rule of the rules then, I guess.
Because I think it's a stand-up is originally a dance in a free society, in a free environment. But here it's kind of like a dance with the chains, you know.
That sums up everything. That sums up. Like I say, you only sell Kung Pao chicken in the States. You don't sell.
Who knows? It's just the beginning stage of it, but I don't know where it's gonna go to, where it's gonna lead to, right?
Are there dreams that so what are they? What are there people who come in comedy thinking they can be big, or maybe like, oh, I want to be this guy, or I want to be that guy in the comedy scene?
Yes. I think it's really influential right now to the young people, and some people are jumping into the scene and trying to be the comedians that they admire in China. But still, as I said, maybe some people just admire their like fame, or just like their, you know, fame and the feel that you can on stage to say what you is in your mind. But even if there's a lot of limits, if you're really doing it and you're growing older, you're growing more mature, you feel like, oh, if there's a less and less that I could say on stage, then people could have different choices.
Understand that. I get it.
People admire this partly because it's a cool thing, and also because they think that could bring my fame and fortune, because it's very popular right now.
If you go out and tell everyone that you're doing stand-up, do you tell your colleagues, like, do your colleagues know that? I suppose you have went up to TV before. I've seen your clips about talking. Like, do your colleagues still go, oh, you're still the face of stand-up comedy at least in Beijing? Like are people just go, oh, is it a cool thing, or is it still like a cool thing, or have people accepted it's just something that people do?
Yes, they feel like it feels like this.
They
feel like, oh, there's something really like cool thing. But on the other hand, people say, oh, can you really see what you want to say in public, like on the TV shows and in a theater, and you know, that's.
What is the most dangerous joke that you have? Well, so what's the danger? So what is the dangerous joke, or what would you perceive as a dangerous joke that you would be able to tell in theater?
The dangerous jokes.
Yes.
What jokes are dangerous in China?
Yeah. So is there like a joke that you perceive as slightly more dangerous in the idea of like offense to the audience member, or offense to the, or you make people think of that kind of joke, because
first of all, I think that's a very Western response. Like, people showing their emotions that they don't care, they're not open to this. But most of the time, the Chinese people just don't give a shit. I mean, they're reluctant. They're sitting back in the chair, and they're checking their WeChat moments. This is their like TikToks and Tinders, and they report it to the government. They don't like you. Yes.
So basically, they tape. So basically, they'll tape your video, right? So they'll tape you. They record you, right? And then put it out online, and say that this guy is doing this kind of jokes. How dare him? That kind of stuff.
Yes, there are some of the cases, but also people sometimes report to the government. They're doing shows in the theaters, and you're talking about something they think they're like the sex issues, like political things, like anything that they don't think right.
Uh,
They just report to the police, they just report to the government,
uh.
and then you got fined. The shows are got fined, the companies got fined.
Would that affect your okay? So I know like there's this social rating or something like that with that I suppose that will get affected as well.
Yeah, but sometimes they post on the social media, but but more if they get really offensive, they're
Uh-huh.
gonna take more efficient and effective way. That is a report to the government.
Oh my god.
Because China, I mean, the authority is way more powerful
Uh-huh.
and than the West, I think. So, I mean, publicity is just like a democracy thing. Like in China, you don't have to use that.
Let's kill the guy. Let's find ways to kill the guy before you can. There's no need to go through public discourse, right? Just kill the way. Like it's very effective to kill the to kill the comedian
Yeah,
on
because
stage.
there's a rule. There's indeed rules like the shows in the theaters, like what you can say.
Oh yeah.
So they think, oh, you're off the line, and then I report, I don't like you. It's like I'm really mad. I really feel bad about you, and I got offended.
But would
a revenge, and the way it is to report government, that's very offensive.
But wasn't it pre-approved? And okay, I'm just let's have some assumption like the comedian is the comedian. So the comedian has submitted his form and he's followed every word he's saying on the pre-approved script, right? So if he says something that's out of line, right, which usually does when it comes to stand-up comedy, but it's pre-approved. Right, it's pre-approved. Like so what happens next? Like does the government? So if the same thing happens, someone tape it, put it out on social media, like that does the government still come down and just go, hey, why did you say this? Then you tell them, hey, it was pre-approved, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have a punishment of the different levels. First of all, if you have these materials, you gotta get approval in the submit level, in the submit stage. You won't get passed, and then you're gonna rewritten or polish your script, and until your script is okay.
Okay.
Definitely, sometimes they're watching closely what you said on the stage, and sometimes they don't. So there's always some kind of a rule of flexibility. But this is basically how China's laws work everywhere here. But it in some ways suggestions, but sometimes something they caught you due to the law. But sometimes you are doing something wrong, but you don't get caught. Just
so wait, if you submit whatever you want to say, it got approved, then after that people put it out online, or if you get caught for saying the same thing that had been approved, you still get in trouble.
You basically you cannot get approved if you want to say anything you want.
But what happens if you get caught with like what happens if, say I'm doing a sex joke on stage, but the sex jokes were approved in previously, but people are taking offense about that? Like we're still in trouble.
It's very technical. It's a very technical question. The topic is okay, but it depends on if they think it's right, like in terms of the context, in terms of the words, in terms of your attitude, in terms of, but it's a very technical issue. But even though you get approved, anyway, you perform on stage. If there's no report, no one reporting to the government, okay, you're lucky. That's it. But if someone reported and then the government would come to see, most of the times, they may warn you. They may fine you. They may trying to limit your qualifications of the companies. They may yeah. I mean, this is of different levels.
Okay. Okay, I'm going a little bit personal here. because I want to know you personally, at a personal level, in a sense where like how did you grow up then? Like because you seem like a very very liberal Chinese person, right? Like what's your like how do you grow up then? Like is your family very conservative or are they very 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 are they very let you open up and get in touch with you like what to see the world outside and stuff like that and do something that's new and stuff like that?
No,
Oh,
I'm very just coming from a very ordinary and a typical Chinese family.
mhm.
And I even live in I I even comes from the province where Confucius used to
Oh,
live.
okay.
I'm from Shandong. So
Uh,
it's tend to be more like a traditional province.
mhm,
People place uh, they value the morality more than the modern rules, modern things.
mhm,
But I think it's just because the English language, because I spent a lot of time learning English in college and
mhm,
in my high school days. I think that shaped my thinking, and also stand up leave me a lot of chances. Oh, right. I've been using English as my working tool.
mhm,
I've been teaching English for some years. I've been the TV journalist, mostly covering the world news and interviewing
mhm,
the people outside of China using English. So, I mean, the people I I work with, and the language shaped me, shaped the way of thinking of mine. So I think that some way opened my door to the different value system, to the different concept,
mhm.
context. Yes.
So here is this thing that I want to ask, right? Okay, so but how is it like growing up then? Like what do you mean by ordinary Chinese what do you call it? Ordinary Chinese family then? Like can you describe a
Like
day? Can you describe a Mhm.
my parents don't speak English at all
Uh-huh.
and have no relationship with any overseas people.
Mhm.
And mm, and I was born and brought up in China,
Mhm.
in the capital city of Shandong province,
Uh-huh.
which is okay, but it's not definitely like Beijing or Shanghai,
Mhm.
but it's the capital city of a second tier city.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're a second tier city. So it's just uh, as a Chinese kids, you got a lot of pressure that you only focus on the uh, school performance. You spend all your time studying, like in, like in school until the college. Uh, yeah, and the people extend you have a permanent life, permanent
Mhm.
job that most Chinese people don't expect people their kids like to be living far away from them.
Mhm.
Uh, right. That's I think how simply that, and also I think this Chinese values place more of a 中庸. I don't know how to translate that. Mm, like you do not go in extremes.
Also
Always
somewhere in the center, somewhere you don't you don't
always
be
on the midway of somewhere. Yeah,
uh
you do not like don't go. It's like a Tai Chi. As I think it's like a Tai Chi philosophy, right?
that's where our values coming from, right? That's
But yeah, as I said, I I spent a lot of time studying English and to get to know more of the West since college days, and that really helped me. I think.
is it
Mm.
is it a common thing for people to try something that's different, or is it like a very common thing for people to go, okay, look, I'm not trying out something that's new or something that's do like you
Basically,
do.
I don't think like Chinese kids are educated in a way
Mm,
that you're gonna be yourself.
mm,
You're gonna chase after your own dreams.
mm,
Whatever you like, just do it.
mm,
It's getting better and better now, but in general, is pretty still like most people like following the trend, following what others people are doing.
mm.
And a typical Chinese adult are expected to have a family, have a kid, and
By the age of
living not
20.
far from away from there. Yeah, I mean
uh
that's it's in the mold.
Yes,
So people
understand.
should be living in this mold, uh, especially the girls. And if you are over like 30 or 35, and people call it leftover women, ladies in China. So it's you see like
But is it still very prominent? Like I'm just surprised because I know a few Chinese ladies here in Singapore as well. Like they are not, they are still very, they are still very, what do you call it? They are still very, uh, well attractive in a sense where when they're
yeah,
slightly older at the age of 30, right?
yeah.
So I'm like are they really left over, or are they just like it's just they are just focusing on different they're just focusing on other things such as their careers and stuff like that, right? So is this still a big
Mm.
no-no in China, or is it like, yeah, because I'm still
I
trying to
think it's
understand the whole the mainland Chinese culture compared to, and have a little comparison against us as Singaporean Chinese, even the way we see things as well.
mm. I just think it's just China comparing with Singapore, because Singapore is just a city to
Mm,
us. Just, I mean, in terms of the size,
mm,
it's not even as big as Beijing. It's not even as
ah,
big as half of a Beijing. It's not even as one third of a Beijing. Like they're talking about the China, it's a few. Like, we're talking about a 1.3 billion people, man.
uh-huh.
So you got people of a different kinds. You
Mm,
got people are living their very different life, like
mm,
from place to another place, uh, because China is having a very balanced development,
mm,
not only the rural and the country life, but also between like people living in first tier cities of Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen,
mm,
are kind of like different, even from the cities of the second tier cities. Like people are tend to be more stable and quiet, and
ah,
not so much pressure. And they're not earning much, but they're living very comfortably, spending
mm,
a lot of time with the family things. But
mm,
in first year cities, people are crazily working, having something really new and fun. And the people in the third tier city and the towns are, I mean, it's just a very different life.
mm,
But all thanks to the internet, the mobile internet, that sometimes like bring people to the same amount of information.
mm,
But still, like that's like if you're supposedly you're in a second tier city or in a town, but especially in a town, you cannot imagine like if women cannot get are still single like over 30.
oh yeah,
You got a lot of judge,
yeah,
that's the China thing. You got a lot of judge, like just
understand.
because the judge is way more less in the first tier cities and in the second tier cities.
I get it. I get it.
Mm.
Again, but my idea of Chinese people, like I'm not talking about like those Chinese celebrity, but more like a mundane Chinese life. The perception of what I have is again from TikTok, right? They like you have people like Zhongting, that Chinese TikTok person, like then where got introduced in where they got introduced in Facebook, surprisingly, and the whole idea of like, oh, my whole idea of like what I would think a normal Chinese, or at least there's a few reference from there that I would think that Chinese perception, like a normal Chinese person life would a normal Chinese life would be, of course with
Mm.
exaggeration and all like that, which is, oh, okay, that's interesting. And the and
You're gonna
people,
be.
huh?
I mean, China has a very many different apps
Mm,
targeting different market actually.
yeah.
Even though this is all Chinese market, but it's a different market. If
Uh,
I take a look at a Kuaishou,
uh-huh.
the very popular Chinese short video app
Mm,
platform,
uh,
and also you talk about the Douyin, the Chinese version, the mainland version of a TikTok.
TikTok, yes.
You're gonna say, oh, it's a different China. It's a very different China because in Kuaishou, what's more popular is the rural stuff, the rural stuff.
Uh-huh.
But
Uh,
that's the majority of in terms of the population. That's the
uh-huh.
majority of the Chinese people. We're talking
Okay.
about like a half or even half of the generation, half of the population,
Okay.
are living in that conditions. But like Douyin or TikTok, it's very urban. It's very urban.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's
Okay.
like New York. It's like New York City and Los Angeles are, yeah, in some way are not America.
Uh-huh.
This
Uh,
is the very two different cities in America.
okay.
But in
Understand.
general, America is not New York City and Los Angeles.
Okay, so here's this thing about the Chinese Douyin. So is it just two major apps like Kuaiso and Douyin?
Yeah, two
Kuaiso and
major short video platforms.
but are there so WeChat? Okay, so I'm not trying to understand the whole Chinese app thing. So you have which one is more popular? So as a comic, if you want to put up your videos online to the Chinese audience, which one would you put it? Douyin
Uh,
or
you
Kuaiso
got a
or
very different platforms like Douyin or Kuaishou are short video platforms. Like more of the videos you see on that is like only a few seconds, like
yeah.
30 seconds and 20 seconds and stuff. And there's a Chinese version. In some way, the Chinese YouTube is called Bilibili.
Bilibili.
Bilibili. That's you got more long videos on that.
Okay.
Yeah,
How long
longer
is long?
videos on.
10 minutes? 10 minutes long? 20 minutes long?
What I'm saying, the short videos is like the videos less than 1 minute, but mostly you see like 10 seconds, 20
Okay.
seconds.
Okay.
That's the TikTok stuff,
Uh-huh.
that kind of stuff.
Okay. So you put Bilibili. I suppose that is that
Bilibili.
easier to get traction, or is that like that social media algorithm when it comes to like
Bilibili is not a social media. It's not a mobile stuff. It's just YouTube. It's kind of YouTube, you know.
But people don't watch Bilibili on mobile phone, and they would open the laptop and just like, hey, go to Bilibili.
No. Sure. They watch it from their phones.
Okay.
But it's not a how could I say? It's not a Weibo and a Weixin. It's not a WeChat and a Weibo.
Oh, okay.
Weibo is a Chinese Twitter. Weixin is somewhere China's Facebook, Instagram, and whatever all combined together. It's the most powerful social app in China. You got everything on that.
I think I got problem with WeChat in a sense, or Weixin in a sense where like they kind of like block me, and I cannot retrieve my account back because I was inactive at that point of time. What about Xiaohongshu? Like Xiaohongshu, I suppose Xiaohongshu works as a Facebook-ish kind of thing.
Yeah, Xiaohongshu, you see less of the videos on there. You see more of the like young beautiful girls like going to a fancy restaurant and take pictures and write notes on that. Something like that.
Now I understand why my former boss lady is so popular in Xiaohongshu. my former boss, so I was in this dog training school in Singapore, right? And my boss was a 50-year-old man, but his wife is gorgeous. His wife is fucking pretty, and she was an influencer in Xiaohongshu.
Okay.
So I'm like, how did it happen? My boss and now it all makes sense. She apparently she got my boss kind of like bragged, like saying like major hotels in Singapore like asked her to put to have staycation in 5-star hotels in Singapore, get her to stay in their hotels as staycation, right? Having that staycation.
Okay.
Then after that they will put pictures in Xiaohongshu. And to be honest, like she is a good looking person. She's an attractive person. I think she's about late 30s, early 40s, right? So and he was bragging about like how she is an influencer in Xiaohongshu. And I never get the idea of Little Red Book Xiaohongshu. But apparently it is brewing in a sense where the Xiaohongshu is getting popular in Singapore SME, right? Because the reason is because you can reach out to a lot of Chinese audience out there. So I never understand Xiaohongshu until you describe that to me.
Seems like I'm kind of good at like using simple words to explain something, even though that's kind of a stereotype.
It is still a stereotype. I guess like Chinese guys will also download Xiaohongshu because of the girls of the girls posting up photos of that.
Yes.
There we go. I broke the social media. I broke the social. I break Chinese social media algorithms, guys. Yes. I
You
could
look at
apply
every
for a
note
job.
they roll. It feels like, oh, I'm so beautiful. I deserve this.
Okay, is influencer a big job in Chinese then? Like, okay, I get it if
Oh,
you're
yes, yes, it is.
it is. Okay, when you talk about so in Singapore they when they talk about influencer, right, they will call themselves a content creator, which I really despise. Because when they call themselves content creator, it means that they create videos, right, that serves a
Mhm.
purpose. I see a lot of people in Douyin who is that I kind of appreciate. Like there's major, like again in Douyin there is this lady called Zong Ting that comes to my head because I really love her stuff because she seems to be really really funny. Or at least in you know like okay, like she's like brainless funny, like okay, it's like she's playing a character in there. I can
Mm.
I kind of understand where her character is going.
Mhm.
And I could call that content creation because you there's a script, there's people like, okay, yes, there are time managed dancers and stuff like that. That I think that there's all that's pretty much the same to every content creator in China, or at least in the Chinese content creator,
Mhm.
right? Or
Mhm.
even in the West, when they have like a TikTok, girls also dance, right? So it kind of makes sense. But the idea of content creation right now in China, is it like when you take a photo, post it online, uh, you post it online, is it still considered content creation, or it's just like a influencer job all on your own?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a big industry in China,
Mhm.
sure. And also there are a lot of companies doing this kind of doing it in a professional way, doing it in a I don't know if Singapore called it MCN,
Uh-huh.
multi-channel network. I guess it's a multi-channel network. We call it
Uh-huh.
MCN companies.
Uh-huh.
Those companies are trying to foster a lot of what they call KOL,
Oh yeah.
king, king of losers.
Uh,
They try to foster a lot of KOL
uh,
in a way, in a very fast way and very rapid. It's like a factories assembly way.
yeah.
Sometimes even they do not pay attention to the creation because,
Mm.
to be honest, I don't think like China's copyright it's doing very well in that. It's just that like it's something. If you saw some video really getting popular and
And
they took
everyone
the
will keep following.
idea
Yeah.
and sent it to everyone and sent it to like 20 people, 20 KOL under their companies and invest money and do the advertisement and see whose numbers are doing well and then
Uh,
put all the money into that one because they're trying to get this data like the more followers you get and the more it's based on that.
mm,
Yeah. And also like in China, live streaming is a big thing too. There's a different platforms in terms of live streaming, not only short videos, and also like people sell things online
the,
crazily.
I
Yeah,
think there's this guy called
crazy.
Xiao Yang or something like that, right? That's very popular in China as well. Like there's this twin brother. They've from short videos they move to live stream, and I kind of
Mm,
respected their live stream wittiness.
mm,
Where they carve out their
mm,
audience of their own, where it's where everyone is taking that template of to be like what live stream may be. I'm not so sure whether that are there anyone before that doing the same structure, but they are the first guys that I get to see where their
mm.
live stream is a little bit like they go wacky and they pull like a very old school kind of magician what magician comedy would do, where they would
Okay.
screw up their product that they are trying to sell.
Uh,
Then
okay.
then after that it's very funny where they retain a lot of followers. I'm not so sure how effective are they selling, but apparently they
I mean,
are doing.
apart from those content creators, what you call the influencers, there are numerous people just doing the online sales,
No.
because all the brands, the factories, the brands are supplying the products to them, and they're just selling it online. They're making a huge amount of money, making a huge amount of money. They're not a content provider, just the salesman online.
Oh yeah.
In their own way, and doing live streaming. There's a lot of people doing that right now. And sometimes like they're doing live streaming, showing their skills, like singing, dancing, or not sharing their knowledge and skills and stuff, and like trying to sell their online courses and training camp. And there are also people like that. So it's not only just like an influencer. It's not just like you create content and you use content to attract a lot of people.
So because my idea of content creation will be like what we all do usually, where you write down a script, where either you do a script or you go up on stage, you do whatever you do, you get approval from a certain group of people. So for stand up, what we do is we go on stage, you get approval from the audience member, then we consider whether do I want to put it up online. For me, is a podcast, right? Like we are sitting down, we are having a chat on what a podcasting may be like. There's an interview, there's thing, like I would consider that as content creation. Well, you going out you putting up a camera and I'm not so sure whether you know this, but in Singapore we kind of like cut out of the cha poly, that kind of dance. It just that I don't know whether it makes sense. So there's this dance called cha poly that to me it's kind of like going crazy with the Singapore audience as well. Apparently, I've seen it in Chinese Douyin as well. So it's kind of like how is that? Like, I know you make an effort to learn that, but it's just, is it the whole main intention of doing that as a selling point in China? Is it very common in a sense that like are there people who just stick to the guns of like what we would traditionally think of what a content creator would do? Do I make sense?
I don't quite get you. Sorry, Gary.
So basically, right? Like instead of like, are there like people who do jobs that would stereotypically not call themselves a content? Would people would people do something that we would call a content creator, like a stereotypical content creator job, and not a influencer job?
Content creator.
Yes. And not an influencer job. Like you would write up a skit, then after you put it up online and
Sure. There are a lot of people doing that. I mean, as I said, and not some doing that by themselves, and sometimes by the help of a company. They got even a team for that. They got writers, they got production, they got everything. They got also a promotion and and also there's many different specific area. I mean, like some people just do automobiles, and some people just do high-tech products, and some people just do the lifestyle things, and also different. It's one of the most important jobs, I think, even for the young people in China. I mean, being an influencer, being a content creator.
So are there people who wants to do, like, are there people who still, is it still like a, so if you go, I'm asking you this because because you're like, you are an educator in China, right? So if you go to a group of young kids right now and ask what their ambition is, are they still going for the jobs that's traditional, or are they like, or the half of the class who want to say, oh, I want to be a Douyin content
Yeah,
creator.
It's very simple. It's very popular, and people say, "Oh, I want to be a web celebrity. I want to be a TikTok celebrity. Uh, it's, I want to be a 小红书 celebrity."
Hey, you got to do what you got to do, man. You got to marry a 50-year-old man in China, in Singapore.
Because I think I think China's internet industry is even more deeply related or rooted in people's daily life than America.
Okay. Okay.
So people are gonna be more influenced by this. We got a delivery, like a food delivery, 外卖 takeaway food, like all we'll have a 美团外卖 the app for the food delivery. We have the DD, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, in general, it's way more convenient, like
Yeah.
living in China, like using all those high-tech IT products.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Understand. All right. I guess that's the end. That will mark the end, right, of the recording. Like being because we will keep talking and I don't know how to end the podcast. And I'm not and you told me you only have half an hour. So with that, thank you very much for doing this.
No problem. No, Gary. You haven't ever been to China, right? Have you?
I've wanted to. I'm actually thinking of, okay. So before the COVID-19 situation happens, right? I'm thinking of going to Europe, then go all the way to, then from the West Europe, Edinburgh, go all the way down to Russia, and I'm thinking of going to China as well. like 3 months, 4 months trip, just to like do the eat pray love thing.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
that's cool. That's cool.
yeah.
I want to go back to Singapore for comedy someday,
Mhm.
because I sure will not only like live in China, uh,
Okay,
according to my plan.
okay.
I was in the States for a short while, but just
Uh,
before the COVID, just before the COVID-19,
uh.
and yeah, I guess we're gonna. We still got the opportunity to meet each other in person.
Yeah, we will, or we will should have the chance. Where are you thinking of moving to?
I'm not actually moving at the moment out. I'm just
Uh,
maybe like traveling to the States.
oh, okay, can.
Because right now I don't think it's as easy to get out of China at the moment because China has been
Lockdown
uh,
again.
taking very serious COVID-19 protection measures and trying to persuade all the citizens like to stay within the border. Or if it's because it's kind of easier because I already have a visa to America. But
Mhm.
and you, right now we're not we're almost are not allowed to travel on a out of China for the traveling reasons, for the tourism reasons.
Okay,
Only
okay.
only for social reasons can you apply to get out of China right at the moment, like
So
for
here's
business, like
this.
for education, for yeah.
So here's this question I want to ask about, like how bad is the situation of the lockdown then? Like, are you still in lockdown? Are you still able to, or is there an ease of a lockdown where people are still able to walk around, buy food, still hang out until like late at night in a bar, then after that slowly walk
Mm.
back home, or things like that. So people are okay with that, or people have to be at home a certain amount of time. If not, there's a curfew going on and stuff like that.
I mean, China has adopted a dynamic method because since China is so big in terms of the numbers, we're really very low at the moment. But yeah, also, but at the same time, people got a lot of complaints that if we should be more flexible,
Mm,
that because China's target is always like we keep it at zero case.
mhm,
So if something really happens, like the number is growing, they're
mhm,
gonna take serious measures to almost lock down. I mean, they have different levels.
mhm,
Some of the compound of the neighborhood are not allowed to get out from the neighborhood, but some have to stay in home. Some, like the city borders has been closed, but it's very dynamic. Maybe
mhm.
sometimes for 5 days, maybe sometimes for a month. And so it's it just depends on it's a very precisely manipulated measure of controlling this, because China has all the data of the people, of cameras, have all the people's track and track people's walk. It's
And
easy, kind of easy for them to do this.
because to me it's very scary because in Singapore, at least in Singapore, we kind of like ease out most of our at least 90%, we have kind of like normalize everything, right? And to hear China is still holding on to the idea of like zero COVID-19 situation, kind of like policies, zero policy, right? So to me, it's still like, okay, so how how do you live then? How do you grow them? Because we Singapore really have resentment against the government if it at the very end of the COVID-19 situation, really, then they open up, right? So right now is okay. So China is still kind of like holding on to the zero policy. Everyone's still like in that situation right now. It's still scary. So right now it's like, okay, so what is it and stuff like that.
Chinese people, I think most of the people are used to it because it's been what happened during the past 3 years. So already got used to it. And also, but the economy has been really badly influenced. Yes, it's got a lot of impact on the economic side of it.
But is delivery? I suppose like the delivery is still good. Does this? Okay, I know Lan Niao is because of the Douyin of the app on Facebook, right? So I suppose like the delivery jobs or delivery guys are still getting very popular in a sense where they are still the delivery is still very it's the thing to do that everyone's doing right now, right?
Is what doing popular?
Is a popular job right now because of the amount of money you can bring every daily and stuff like that. Because I'm an Uber driver in Singapore. I'm a TT driver, equivalent driver in Singapore. So I suppose that's very popular that's very popular in China, I guess, or at least in the delivery guys are still very popular in China, I guess.
Yeah, it's simple. I don't know what do you mean by being popular, but
it's like there'll be people who just go, okay, look, there's no other jobs right now. I would just devote my time to do and call themselves a delivery guys.
Yeah, in some way, sure, but also there's a lot of limitations from that. I just don't think. Sometimes I just think the model is very different because you cannot. When we're talking about China, it's a whole big country with 1.3 billion people. It's not a city. Like in a city where like people are all similar and live in the same lifestyle. But in China, it's really complicated and different from place to another place. So, and people are living very different lives. Some people who lose their jobs, if they got a car and if they're allowed, maybe they go to flexible jobs like a DD driver or to delivery man, right? All due to this the app, the social apps. But that's still a very small amount of it compared to the huge population. And also like China's public transportation is kind of okay. So you only got a small part of it doing that. And not all the families have cars, right? In terms of that also.
Because our own, even if you don't have a car, you can cycle, right? So it get very or at least in the media, it says it's getting very popular because everyone is doing it right now. It's very easy. You just download an app and just do.
Right.
You just go to, maybe there's a cost for you if you're a driver. If you're a delivery, you just go register yourself in the app itself. Maybe go to like a half a day course at a company that you want to work with. If not, there is an even better. Then you just do the delivery like how you would do it, right? So the idea of a delivery, the idea of like doing a driver or a delivery job is a go-to. Although we have like our public transport system is not bad as well. It's pretty good as well. So it's just the whole idea of like everyone just do that job because it's simple, it's easier, it's a go-to job if you're jobless. It's like we are doing this job because heroin is illegal in Singapore. Just so basically it's simple. It's a go-to job. If you're jobless, at least if you cannot drive, you can get a bicycle, you can be a walker, you can deliver nearby as well.
Okay.
So it makes a lot of us like, okay, driving is delivery, it makes sense for all of us. Yeah. So yeah, so if you can't be an influencer, you can be a delivery person. That's all right. And with that, right, I guess it's a good way to end
Okay.
the podcast. Okay, thank you very much for doing this. I appreciate that you're
No
doing
problem,
it.
Gary. Yeah. Let me keep in touch, and
We will.
just leave a message when it's out. Yes.
Okay, sure, Ken. Thank you. I will do that. Appreciate this. All right, thank you.
Okay, no problem.
All right.
Okay, that's the end of my conversation with Tony Chou. I love this conversation with him. It's very informative, right? I get to know a lot more, satisfy the curiosity inside me, right? The digital marketing side of things. And with that, right, if you like this podcast, if you like this episode, go to notagainpodcast.com. Check out the previous guests, right? I'm on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram as well. I'll be posting shit up there, right? Telling you what happened to the episode, reminding you, hey, a new episode is going to be out very soon. So yeah, with that, right, that's the I'm on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, and Spotify as well. Do follow, do rate, review, subscribe if you want to know more. And with that, thank you very much. It's very nice to hang out with you guys. Let me go and create an account in Xiaohongshu. Yeah, see you guys. See ya.